Instead of having to choose one specific road, it's been about discovering something and then trying to integrate it into a greater whole. And I feel it's how nature works. You know, nature doesn't segregate. Nature takes all of its diversity and integrates it into one thing. And so this journey in permaculture has been about integrating the intellectual with the emotional, with the spiritual.
Welcome to this new episode from Pai, Northern Thailand. I am here with Damien. How are you, Damien?
Very good, thank you.
Very nice. So Damien is running the Seedlings Foundation in Pai and is an expert of organic agriculture and permaculture. Damien, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your journey in life?
So I think it all started 15 years ago when I was going through my studies, studying management and finance and working in corporate finance while I was doing that, which was terribly not satisfying. I started to get sick, I was having physical illness, I was just lacking vitality, not finding any purpose. I already had a deep passion for nature and I saw no possibility of going that way with my studies. So I quit my job, I finished my studies, and I went traveling to India, Thailand, China, Asia for a year, just to give myself time, I think, to, funny way, but somehow I needed to get lost in order for my life purpose to find me.
Yes.
And obviously this is what happened. India, Thailand, there was a new sense of vitality in life, spirituality, some great psychedelic experiences, mystical experiences with nature. And after a year traveling, I just couldn't go back to my old life, so I decided to move to Thailand to keep on going through these experiences. Mm-hmm. I worked as an English teacher for a while, then I had a restaurant on Koh Phangan, which is a small island down south.
Yep.
Was living for 2 years, no electricity, so very, very close, very deep intimacy with nature, and then something clicked there that in the mystical dimension of life became very pregnant, had deep experiences with animals. The whole of nature was just from a love of nature, became an intimacy with nature. Nature started to speak back, and that gave, that was then, as life just became very different. I knew I wanted to go further into that. I knew I wanted to do something for ecology, and I was working as a chef in a restaurant at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling like, so I have this deep relationship with nature that's deeply alive and vibrant, and on the other side I'm cooking these really bad quality ingredients and felt like I was making it up to feed people, and that couldn't work anymore. So again, I had to make another change in my life. And that's when I came to Northern Thailand and I discovered Pan Self-Reliant Center, permaculture, and the whole lifestyle that came around. So it was about natural building, it was about building community, it was about organic farming, and all of that as a lifestyle, not as separate elements. And that made a huge shift, because that vision of life is still what we're working on today in building. It's not only about the food, it's not only about economy, but it's all of that, rethinking the whole thing together. And that's about when I met my wife also, and we discovered Pai, and we decided to move here to engage in what we knew would be a lifelong project and not just a short-term thing. So we came here to grow our roots and try to reinvent a whole lifestyle.
Wow, that sounds very great. And there are a couple of elements I noticed from it. First, there's a strong spiritual element, like a spiritual journey that you went through from the West into traveling, into being more connected with nature and with animals, and then almost nature speaking back to you. Yeah. And the second element that I really feel from what you're saying is the holistic element of having not just one thing, but having a lifestyle, a whole ecosystem around the way you live that kind of like is harmonious and fits in.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually one and the same kind of movement towards integrating all the different aspects of life, all the different dimensions of life. And instead of having to choose one specific road, it's been about discovering something and then trying to integrate it into a greater whole. And I feel it's how nature works. You know, nature doesn't segregate. Nature takes all of its diversity and integrates it into one thing. And so this journey in permaculture has been about integrating the intellectual with the emotional, with the spiritual being that dimension where the principles that are true for my well-being are also true for the well-being of the ecology around us, the nature, and it's true of our relationships. And questioning what principles from nature we can experiment that are true for all these dimensions, that is what I find fascinating, because then it's not about taking care of myself or taking care of my relationship or taking care of the economy or taking care of the ecology. It's finding those transversal principles and patterns that apply to everything, and then makes things much easier.
It makes so much sense. I mean, you and the environment, such a symbiosis. I mean, I am part of the environment around. If I take care of myself, I take care of the environment.
Yes.
Everything comes back to me and goes back to the environment again. It's a cycle of life,
Yes.
and it's very beautiful. I really like that very much. And with Damien, we did a tour of the farm here. So we are in the house now upstairs, and you have different vegetables you're growing. I saw some of the workers working outside on what it looked like some lettuce and different kind of herbs, etc. We have the chickens, as you can probably hear as well. And we have papayas. What kind of produce do you grow here?
Wow, that's a lot. I don't even think I can name all of them just out of the top of my mind. But now there's a lot of, different salads, lettuce, a lot of greens like different kinds of kale. The tomatoes are we've been eating them for a couple of weeks. The big ones are coming soon. Lots of cucumbers, eggplants, different kinds of bean. We had some squash during the rainy season. We've just harvested the organic rice. So we got sticky rice and jasmine rice. There's a lot of fruits that are coming. We've planted the trees when we just started the project 5 years ago. So we had our first mangoes. 6 months ago we had the first mangoes. Some different kinds of cherries. Lots of herbs, oregano, 5 different kinds of basil, dill.
Wow.
Ginger, we're about to harvest ginger and root plants before it's winter. There's just so much. I don't think I can think of all of them out of the potatoes, sweet potatoes. There's just a lot of.
That's very lovely. You know, so much good food you can make with all these ingredients, right?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about the model, because I think you mentioned to me earlier that there is a membership model that you're using.
Yes. The beginning was when we became parents 7 years ago. My son's about to turn 7. So when we became parents, we bought this property, which was just dead rice paddies, with the intention of restoring fertility, bringing life, being able to grow food, and see if we could take that transition as parents at a moment of our life when everybody was telling us, no, you guys need security now, come back to France, get a job. It's like, no, we want to show that we can do this as parents, transforming our lives and transforming a piece of land. So it started 7 years ago. And now we've kind of reached the end of that road of how much we can do just on our own, and which is great. I mean, we've done lots of stuff, but we've kind of reached the end of the road in terms of doing it just alone. And now, last year, as a response to COVID, we opened up the project with a CSA model, which means community supported agriculture. So we called out to a few friends to work on a membership where they support every month with a yearly commitment, donation based. And we use that money to employ a local gardener that we train in regenerative practices, and he grows the food for us. So for him, he has a security of work, a very good pay, good working conditions, pesticide free, and on our end, we get organic food, we get more support for the land restoration. And it's kind of a win-win-win situation where we're using the change of mindset as consumers to support the farmers growing the food. So that was, for a year, we had 4 members like that, and this year we doubled. So now we've got ourselves and 7 other families that are donating money again. So we're paying farmers to work with us. We're paying cooks to transform the food. And so we co-own the production. We're getting together for the means, we're growing a whole bunch of food, and because the fertility is growing, we get more and more yields, and we can feed in more and more people that are supporting the project on a long-term commitment to support all of this, because it takes time to restore fertility, to grow food. And so that's why we like this membership-based thing rather than just purely commercial. I give you food, you give me money. It's very limiting. Now you support our vision on the long term, you co-own the production of the farm, and you become a long-term supporter of good work conditions, of long-time restoration effort for the soil, and all of that can grow safely through time, through deep time, long time, through the membership process.
It's very nice indeed, you know, and I think that if you look at the Western world particularly, if you look at the quality of the food that you know, an average person is exposed to on a daily basis, devoid of nutrients, full of toxins, you know, processed industrial food, starting from the agriculture, which is chemical based, all the way to the production of the food, you know, the packaging of it and the delivery to the end consumer. There are so many things that could be improved, right? The whole system is geared towards like all this packaged food that is so poor in many ways.
I think every single part of the food production system could be improved. I mean, you could almost say that nothing is right in this food system. The way we produce the nutrients is wrong, the way we eat, the way we package, the way we transport. It's bad for our health, it's bad for the ecology of the planet, it's destroying life on all levels, it's destroying economies, it's not supportive of building communities. I mean, nothing, it's just completely, we need to turn the whole system upside down. And what we discussed earlier, which was not to produce for our needs, but to adapt our needs to what nature can produce. And as a consumer, to take responsibility for how the food is produced, I think that is central, and it's central to the model I was describing earlier. We eat food 4 times a day, and that's what's keeping us healthy or making us sick. On the other end, there's people that are working the soil every day, growing the food. These people, we should honor them, we should feel grateful, and we should do whatever we can to give them the right work conditions. Because as they grow food, so they can sustain the ecosystem. They are the ones doing the restoration efforts on the ecosystems. If we don't want our countryside to die from lack of care, from not being a healthy interface with nature, it is our responsibility as consumers to make sure that they have the right conditions to do that.
I was reading that about 50% of food in America is bought and trashed.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable the amount of waste, all the effort and energy put into growing this food through chemical means, and then half of it is wasted. It's unbelievable. I think there is lots of inspirational work that we need to do with people and saying food is something sacred, is something beautiful. You're buying food, don't waste it, don't throw it away. You know, if you're 50% of the money that you spend on food is gone anyway, just invest a little bit more, buy higher quality food. Everybody can start, you know, in a small way, and then, you know, hopefully projects like this will be more prevalent in the future.
Yeah.
And people will have access to better food, and it's going to be good for the environment as well, because this is a big theme that's been developing across the world now. So
I like what you said. All of us can do something at our own level, whether you live on the countryside or whether you live in a city and you don't have access to growing your own food. If you eat, then there's a direct democracy where you can impact the food production system just by choosing what kind of food you put in your belly. And if you don't do it for the planet, at least do it for yourself. You know, we are making ourselves sick by choosing the wrong kind of food, and we're destroying what I was saying earlier, we're destroying the economies, the communities, and the planets.
Damien, can you tell me a little bit more about the project that you have with regards to trying to have an impact on the burning in northern Thailand, because this place is beautiful. One side effect, so to speak, of the type of agriculture which is common and prevalent here is that many farmers, they burn the waste of the agricultural products that they create. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's a sensitive and complicated subject, so I hope I'm not going to say anything stupid here. To make it simple, there's really two parts of the problem. One is the burning from the waste, agricultural waste, mostly maize, mostly being grown for the meat industry. So we grow a lot of maize to feed the cows so that we can eat meat. So that's one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is wild burning, where they burn the mountains around, because it makes it, one of the reasons it makes it easier to harvest a specific mushroom that is highly valued on the international market. So there's two approaches to dealing with the burning. What we're starting to do here is to make biochar out of the agricultural waste. So the corn, the wood, also we harvest wood that's been cut, because there's so much biomass. We're trying to take some of that and transform it into biochar. Biochar is great because it's a way to burn wood that you don't put the carbon back in the atmosphere, you store it back in the soil. So you avoid atmospheric pollution and you improve soil fertility and soil regeneration. So it's like two solutions to one problem. That's pretty easy. We've been doing development here on some specific ovens to do that, and we're about to upscale the project to get more local people involved. Hopefully that will help with the agricultural waste. The other side of the project, which is burning the mountain, it's really hard to know what we can do. We're going to work with a friend to see if we can farm that mushroom. So if we can farm that mushroom in, I don't know, whatever medium, if we can harvest the spores and farm it, then if we can teach people how to farm that mushroom instead of burning the forest to harvest it, then we may have a beginning of a solution. But it takes time. There's a lot of cultural resistance. Obviously, as a foreigner, I'm in a delicate position also to tell people what to do. I don't want to have to tell them anything. So we're developing solutions and hoping that people get inspired. We're working with a Warm Heart Foundation in Chiang Mai that has a massive impact in northern Thailand for everything to do with ecological restoration. And so thank you to Michael. He's mentoring us on this project. We are working with some people also here that have technology to, using blockchain technology pretty much, allowing people that do the biochar to get paid for it by selling the carbon offset to big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and companies in the West that are polluting, that need to offset their emissions, and connecting these guys to the local farmers here who can produce the biochar, and through technology bridging the gap so that they can get paid and create a financial incentive.
So in the biochar, you said you needed some special oven to it, and it's once you have the technology in place, it is quite a straightforward process to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's all low tech. It's just creating the right conditions that you burn the gas in the wood and not the wood itself. So you actually keep all the carbon content. You don't throw it in the atmosphere.
So there's less smoke, basically.
There's no smoke at all.
No smoke at all.
There's no smoke at all.
Wow.
And or very little at the beginning, but the idea is to have a very strong draft that you burn the gas, and all the wood just turns into char. Actually, there's no smoke.
And this char, you can use it for the soil.
Yeah, and then we crush it and we put it back in the soil, and that's the most effective way to take biomass and to put it back in the soil, because there's no loss of carbon matter, and that's carbon then is slowly released into the soil, bringing fertility. It's improving the water absorption capacity of the soil, creating more moisture, habitat for bacteria. Apparently, scientific studies in lab also prove that even if the biomass has pesticide inside, once it's turned into biochar, the pesticides are held into the biochar in the soil, so it's not being released. The chemicals aren't being released through the plants or through the water. So it's just a great solution, best solution to improve soil fertility, which we need also because we've destroyed so much of the topsoil that we need to improve soil fertility to grow better food. So it's going to be a great support for the farm here also.
That's lovely what you're doing, you know, I can see you're very passionate about it and you've done so much already, you know, and so your vision for the future is to continue growing the produce, the output for your farm, and then getting involved in more sort of like educational projects like this one, is that right? So
yeah, the vision for the future is, as I was saying, we started at the family level and now we're trying to come up more into the community. So the vision would be to have more people get involved with us because we've been doing everything ourselves and we're limited now. We can't be farmers, marketers, great communication, finance. So we need to split those responsibility, get more people to work with us so that we can improve our outreach and just upscale most of the projects we've done. The CSA is working great. We're feeding 7 families, but with more people involved, we could feed 50, 100 families. The biochar we're doing ourselves, but if we had more people to work with, we could also have like 100 farmers around. So I feel that now we've done all the research and development, all the experiments, it's time to blossom and like get a bigger ecosystem to work with. So that's our vision for the next 10 years.
That's lovely, and I don't know if you accept donations from people from abroad as well?
Yes, we accept donations. Next month we'll be launching the Patreon page for people who want to get involved to be able to support us with whatever their capacity. And in return you'll be supporting the farm project, but also we'll be sending out educational content on how to work our own personal transitions to make that possible, because there's a technical element on site, but there's also a mindset and paradigm change that we can work on ourselves. That's what we do with my wife also. We're both coaches to take people through the psycho, spiritual and emotional transition so that we can empower ourselves to do that kind of things. And that's what you'll get through the Patreon if you want to support us this way.
This is a wonderful thing. So if you're watching this at home and you feel like you wanna, participate or support, I think, in the description we're gonna put some links. And indeed, if you are in Pai, it's a beautiful place in northern Thailand, and you can be coming here and then be in touch with Damien as well, and that would be lovely. Well, thank you very much for this little chat. It's been a great pleasure, and I love agriculture, I love food, so it's so much up my street, and thank you for what you're doing and for hosting me today.
Thank you very much.